Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Good evening and good morning and good afternoon for whoever is connecting with us from across the universe. Thank you for the community of women in cybersecurity Middle East for their great virtual conference and event and symposium, all the hard work and the leverage that they put behind the scene to get us all on board on one platform. I know that it's a hard work, and I would like to take a few minutes before I start my conversation today with you all to send a special thank you and recognition for all of the volunteers that they work hard on bringing content from the Middle East to the world on a subject of our interest at the moment, which is cybersecurity, one of the hot topics internationally. And that has been one of the hottest topics and one of the trendiest topics, even in business, not only in technology industries for the past few years. My name is Hoda Alkhzaimi. I'm Director for Center for Cybersecurity in NYU Abu Dhabi. I'm also a Research Assistant Professor in Department of Engineering. I do my research on cybersecurity in general, specifically cryptography and cryptology. I am leading a women's society in UAE, NGO, that's called IDAO, Emirates Digital Association for Women. Please look it up. We do a lot of events to sponsor women leadership. I started my career being a security analyst, grow up the ladder until I became lead of departments when it comes to R&Ds in cybersecurity. I took my PhD in cryptography and cryptology, and I did my master's in as well cryptography and mathematics. And I had a bachelor degree from UAE University. Started with electrical and computer engineering and then information security as well. So in women, let's talk a little bit about IDAO, who's trying to push the boundaries and try to provide opportunities for not only for women, because women is always about communities, for leveraging up communities and creating opportunities across the world. These opportunities comes in the shape of a changing curriculum, of building boundaries and building hacking camps and building hardware and software cryptography camps, in addition to a lot of business initiatives and other technology initiatives and opportunities for people out large and the community out large. So Center for Cybersecurity in NYU Abu Dhabi, we started this great R&D initiatives with the government of Abu Dhabi, who been very generous with the funding and with the support that they have given the center in the past 5 to 6 years. And we build it up as a center that conducts research, educate the community about the next generation of cybersecurity and shape up the public discourse and build industrial ecosystem around it. We do our research in a very diverse platform, starting from cryptographic primitive. We have smart city testbeds, avionics security, wireless security, and common network security aspects, digital forensics, securing the supply chain and digital manufacturing and emerging research. The landscape of cybersecurity for the past 20 years. So I wanted to start with you all by, normally it would be an interactive session where I would ask the audience, how would you define cybersecurity? And the answer to this question would evolve always and change periodically, because it started by saying, okay, cybersecurity is this kind of technical space, but then right now and today, it went beyond just being a technical space where we evaluate attacks and threats and try to build mitigation tactics and analysis tactics to these mitigation platforms, to something higher than this. So let's see, what do we have here when we, for example, Google what cybersecurity on a platform like YouTube, for example.
Welcome to MHS. Congratulations.
Let me do it from here.
Biggest brokerage with 60,000 employees had been battered by nearly $50 billion in mortgage.
It's finally finished. I'm ready to send you the world's first payment of Bitcoin. We're about to make history's first peer-to-peer cashless transaction. Use an urban glamorous as I am. I press send, and Bitcoin becomes the existentialist threat to every government in America on Earth. My life will be forever changed. If they find out who I am, they'll destroy me, my reputation, and my family. But I know it's worth the risk. I think of the human progress we'll make. The time has come to set the world free.
It required an $85 billion subsidy.
So when we ask about a definition of a field or a medium, it's not anymore a field that constitute threats analysis or building countermeasures, but also it's a field that cross boundaries into providing new mechanisms of building e-commerce, like the Bitcoins, for example. And I say a new mechanism, a new trusted and secure mechanisms of building the next financing platforms, or building as well the next trusted platform for doing business, as we have seen in Bitcoins, for example, and the blockchains. So we know that the world is even now through COVID is working on an accelerated mode to go through this kind of connectivity and digitalization aspects between individuals. We had this projection that says the world would have over 50 billion devices. This 50 billion devices would be, divided among all of these countries around the world, 195 countries around the world, which will give it 257 million devices per country by 2025. I'm sure today, with the impact of COVID, these numbers will be inflated to a different degrees. So how do we deal? How do we deal when we have this kind of ecosystem that pushes boundaries when it comes to technological innovation and technological shifts? And what would happen to the way we build security? How futuristic our ways of building security will be? Do we catch up, or are we still locked in 1980s and 1970s ways of building cybersecurity? And I want you to be mindful through this presentation in your own way of how do we perceive this, which is very important. Look around you and try to analyze the way we build policies for cybersecurity. It takes us from 1 year to 3 years to build proper policies and to build cybersecurity standardization when it comes to pushing them into hardware or software environments. And it takes 3 minutes in cultivating an attack, or maybe seconds sometimes. So are our measures in building these standards or security standards around the world adequate, or shall we re-evaluate the way we build security around the world today? So what did we know? We did know that investments on cybersecurity, if you Googled right now, Forbes, 100 companies around the world, I'm sure you will find a cybersecurity company among these companies. And investments for cybersecurity in the past years have skyrocketed from 88, for example, billion to 270 billion estimation for 2026. And we do have as well this kind of estimation that it would be more than 4.2 billion within the US economy in terms of investment per value. When you look at questions that that happened in the Global Risk Report in 2017, you could see cybersecurity rank at number 3 of top risks that we should analyze and we should really look closer into. But in actuality, some countries rank them at number 1. And I would say this is a very wise advice that they got from their consultants in 2017, because we right now and today, through the current crisis, we see the actuality of what happened to communities that don't scale up their cybersecurity talent and the way they adhere to building up their cybersecurity defense, because it's not anymore about having an operational team where they patch the system. You need to have an R&D team. It's a must within the cybersecurity. You need to have an autonomous team building up your security, making sure that you can adjust and reflect onto these attacks. And we will even see a higher and higher investment. These global investments and venture capitalist cybersecurity, where we want to see more of startups coming into the cybersecurity and seeing this kind of mystical joint collaborative platforms on cybersecurity, where cybersecurity is not only in companies like FireEye or CyberArk, but also in companies and technology companies that we know that they are giants like Microsoft and IBM and Symantec and B Systems and other companies as well around the world. So we need to be mindful of what is the positioning and what is the motivation of each of these industries. How can we leverage this to our own benefit, especially for people who are working within governments around the world and within implementing solutions in smart cities when it comes to cybersecurity? This is essential. You need to know what's under the box, what's being sold to you, what's being marketed to you, and can your team handle it and build security measures around it. And when you look into incidents, and this incident report is something that we've seen by 2019. I'm not going to include the recent year 2020 because we've seen a huge rise to these incidents. You could see that incidents don't only happen from organized entities, but also you do have incidents that are state-led, and you do have a mix of different platforms where some states are being targeted, like for example you see here, and also some states are being developing a massive, for example, intelligence capabilities. Of course, you have to check the sources of each data, because some data could be also very biased to the sources of that is being generated. But if we looked as well at the public reports that has been released, we know all of us, the rise of fake news, the rise of the effect and impact of analytics on the privacy of the user's data, security of the user data. We have specific platforms like Cambridge Analytica, for example, using platforms like Facebook, and the lack of privacy measurements being actually implemented in algorithms. And this is as well another area that we have to discuss and do more research around, is how can we build a parallel between policies like GDPR laws that tells you that you have the right not to be analyzed, the right to be erased, but the technology is not catching up to these laws, because these laws has been put in separation of the technology field or the technology community, that the community did not build the proper measures, the proper algorithm to catch up with these laws. Because at the moment, you don't have algorithms that would erase every little data of you and that would guarantee that you're not analyzed, not in the current technological platform that is available. So we have a few attacks that happened on privacy, for example, which took a forefront. We've seen a few attacks that happened in Yahoo, for example, and other attacks with higher impact. But the forefront here is something like changing the public biases, political biases, for example, or purchase power towards certain products produced by certain companies and using their privacy elements in here. And if we looked at, I'm not going to go into details on this. I'm sure most of you have seen that 88% of the global organization reported that they suffered of a breach in the last 12 months. And this is something that you could see constantly in the past 4 years. Every time you would review this public reporting, they will tell you that organizations has been breached by at least 80%. So what are we doing wrong? If every year we do have the same reporting of similar benchmark, it means maybe the ways we are presenting and protection of current confidentiality measures of these companies are not adequate. And so we need to, and this is one of the things that we maximize input, motivation toward here is building your own R&Ds when it comes to cybersecurity. Be involved and be actively in control of how you build your own security. And I cannot stress on how important this is. Make sure that your own staff and your own human capital are experts enough in the field, experts in a way that they can build up your security from a technical perspective, building the algorithms, building the policies, to delivering the concepts. And this is something that's very important. And we talked about prior to this session with the organizers of this conference, Basma and others. So I would hope that if there is one takeaway from this presentation, is that you cannot outsource your cybersecurity, and you cannot outsource, not in 2020, definitely, and you cannot outsource particularly the component that relates to solution building when it comes to cybersecurity. We talked about the risks that we have in cybersecurity. Most of them are related, in my opinion, to the power of using analytics on your publicly available data that you don't realize that they are publicly available, by the way, and the future trends that existed in building AI-empowered solutions and countermeasures. And this is something that we have been very active and keen on analyzing in the research field. And we always talked about the fact, how can we use analytics, for example, to build self-healing digital components that even if there is a disruption, they could, be very adaptive to that disruption, and then go back to a state of security that is trusted by their peer system parties. And this is one of the open problems at the moment, and people are working on it, including different research groups around the world. So my research profile, welcome to a bit of research that I'm doing with my group. So primarily I work on cryptography and cryptanalysis of cryptographic primitives. So we build ciphers, hash functions, authenticated ciphers, post-quantum crypto components that could be used in, I would say, wearable devices, RFID implants, and very limited hardware environments. The reason why we want to push boundaries is when you push boundaries when it comes to hardware components, you tend to sacrifice security. And we wanted to make sure that we are at that perfect balance of making sure that our future cities are prepared for this. So we do the full scope of work of designing, analyzing, implementing, and testing and validating these cipher components, and also attacking them when it comes to hardware and statistical attacks. So we do linear differential analysis, we do all different, profile schemes of hardware attacks as well. And the ultimate goal here is to build an efficient, trustworthy cryptographic hardware. We also work on building cryptographic randomness, which is one of the great projects that we have in-house. And we do this based on nanotechnologies, buffs, or based as well on transistor and ultimately optical buffs. So we are slowly growing. We finished the first two components and we're working on the third component here, where we analyze it against the next kind of attacks that are available. And as well, we try to provide security to avionics, which is a great project that we secured funding from the government of Abu Dhabi Department of Education. We're thankful for their support in here. I don't know if you realize, by 2020, the aviation industry were meant to use ADSIP and different kind of protocols that are meant to provide a secure communication, but without encryption layers. So aircraft were meant to just broadcast their communication, and we came into play in order to analyze this protocol and try to provide a closer look on the actual security that exists in UAV or aviation, and what kind of different encryption or security layers we can add, what kind of authentication we could add, and how can we make sure that we secure this investment. Because some of these UAVs, and we're talking about tactical UAVs, they could cost between 60 million, minimum, and 60 million US dollars. So securing their communication is very important, because accessibility to this level of communication means that you could have control over directing the aircraft or changing their mission, which is something that we witnessed in 2017 and late 2016, 2017, and we don't want that to happen again. So how can we, facilitate an open communication between the ground station and the aircraft is something that we're touching on this project, and we have a publication on this. I would advise you to go to my Google Scholar and look into that publication. And how can we build a specific hierarchies of attacks and investigate them. So we did investigate an aircraft hijacking attack, is the possibility to hijack the connection between the aircraft and ground station, mimic that you are one of this authenticated, ground station, and then change the GPS itineraries, for example, for the aircraft or the route of the aircraft. The confidentiality as well component where you spoof the location of the aircraft and you know exactly what kind of route they're taking. And sometimes you could do a masquerading where you can just ghost, what we call it, a ghost aircraft or a ghosting attack. And you pretend that you are an aircraft on an itinerary, so the other aircraft could change direction of operation. We also have another research project that we started. It started out of judging competition with RTA, Rotem Communication Authority Dubai, and I would give them a huge shout out for the effort they're doing in the community in building up security across board, and also bringing new concepts to the way they are building the current mobility test bed. So they started a driverless car mobility test bed competition in Dubai. And then out of this, we realized the security component is not well respected or well analyzed. So we suggested that security be one pillar of that rather than safety. So people don't really mix up these two notions and concepts. And out of this, we realized that we could do proper analysis on this. So we started in the labs with a group of interns to analyze the autonomous car security. Two of these interns went later on doing their PhD level studies on the same kind of concepts. So what we have done is we analyze all the electrical components of the car. We describe that they could be attacked, and there are certain attacks. I would advise you to go online and look at them when it comes to the sensors and when it comes to the different communication channels that exist in the car and the radar and LiDARs as well. So what we have done is we wanted to not take the traditional route of attacking these physical components, but also focus more into the autonomous components of the car. So we focused on a machine learning approach that comes into attacking and analyzing this car, autonomous cars. And the reason behind this is that you do have a great algorithm box when it comes to the machine learning components used on these autonomous cars. So we did analyze some kind of deep learning examples that comes into this, and we try to manipulate the cars into having, for example, car crashes or changing itineraries. And the issue that we have done is we try to do something that we called a one pixel or multi-pixels attacks. So we try to, we built an algorithm that's based on deep learning in order to misclassify the images that we have captured or that the car has captured from the road one pixel at a time, and change, for example, a green light perception to a red light perception to the car, or a red light perception to a green light perception to the car, which can cause an accident or can cause a delay. And alternatively to this, what we have done as well is we did initiate an attack when it comes to changing the steering angle of the car, which can change the itinerary of the car without the driver noticing that, or without, I would say, the car system analyzing that. And this level of I would say, detectable attacks helped us a lot into building a new level of attack taxonomy that's goes beyond what the current, autonomous vehicles having, which is something that's more related to AI-based components. So after speaking about this, I want to speak about the future of cybersecurity a little bit. And as you have seen, the level of research we're doing is not restricted only to the traditional way of how we perceive cybersecurity, but we try to jump into the new technological concepts, even if they're still being developed in the R&D, and try to analyze cybersecurity aspects that are related to them. We don't see cybersecurity as a field that is mono-directed by, for example, computer scientists or mathematicians or computer engineers, rather than it's a very diverse field that should have people from the law enforcement or the policymakers or social scientists, economists being part of the conversation, so you could build a futuristic and holistic approach. And for this is why we are discussing transformational open R&Ds, which is an R&D concept that we do need critically in cybersecurity, because we need to open the box of building up a solution. So it's not only relevant to specific experts group or knowledge group. And at the same time, we need to open up the result factors that we are having and perceiving. And in a way, cybersecurity was always a field that's being conducted behind a closed scene and behind the curtain. And it's very important at the moment to just open that innovation boxes and have more of the open platforms, open libraries, open product build concepts with the communities, with the junior hackers, with the junior security analysts, I would say as well, in order to transform the way we are building cybersecurity across board. It's not anymore about quantum cryptology only, or lightweight crypto, or quantum computing, or lightweight computing. It's more about open computing. We have seen different initiatives in UAE as well when it comes to building a CSR initiatives that is open, raising a substantial amount of money for it, and going for impact that would change the world. And the question here is, what would be the impact that would change as well the world for cybersecurity, in a way that it would be building a trusted and resilient cyber technological platform. And I would say the pitfalls or the traps that we fall under would, we discuss a long-term sustainable engine of R&D when it comes to cybersecurity, or at least what I feel under was the fact that everybody will have this false stigma that R&D should be a conversation around how this return of investment is low. And it's something that could be done only in universities, and or it is something that's strict to only certain business units. And this is something that is not true. And I would say it's definitely not the way you should embrace how you build a business in 2020. R&Ds should exist outside universities in abundance. It should exist in a great amount of funding when it comes to this standalone business-funded, government-funded entities that are not reporting to specific business or government body, but can still flourish outside that ecosystem. We have plenty of positive examples around the world, but we need something that's focused on cybersecurity, like what we have on, I would say, material sciences or on physics. So I put a bit of analysis on how much funding does certain country spend on cybersecurity, and the preview that we have is that the US or China spend more than others, but the trick here is to view countries spending in relation to their GDP. And when you look at that, you will analyze that we do have countries in the Middle East, countries in Korea and Asia, for example, and in Europe, Northern Europe, being leading that kind of race actually in reality. So this is just a general call for us to analyze how transformative this industry 4.0 and how can we make sure that cybersecurity is a pillar when it comes to discussing industry 4.0. It's not anymore, because we have been discussing the same topics in cybersecurity for the past, I would say, 10 years, which is typically smart city security, industrial security, industrial devices security, OT, IT alliance, all of these other concepts, quantum computing security, AI-based security. I would say it's more than that. It's more into how would you build the innovation model of cybersecurity that would sustain you building a faster policy technology conformance for the next 20 years. If you want to build a new technology that would resolve a specific issue and that's agile for change, then this is what you have to think of. How can you open up the box? How can you make sure that there is the circle between execution and delivering a technology when it comes to cybersecurity, and designing a technology when it comes to cybersecurity is actually very, very minimal. And it crosses all boundaries, because cybersecurity is something that you could find in all of these pioneering new fields we're talking about in education, healthcare, climate change, critical infrastructure. If you don't have a proper security in all of this, the system could be crashed easily. So your shareholders are not anymore someone or something that's specific, and your open R&D's primitives are a must in today's measure, I would say. And that's it for me for today, and we'll take any questions from all of you. Thank you so much for tuning in tonight, and these are my contact if you need any kind of help and support. Either you catch up with me on LinkedIn or on these kind of communication platforms, and I'll be more than happy to help and support. Thank you so much. This has been Hoda Alkhzaimi, and we talked about different aspects of future trends in cybersecurity and specific research outcomes that we have faced and shared from here, from NYU Abu Dhabi in UAE. Let me check if we have any questions. So I don't see any questions. If we don't have it, I will maybe wait for 2 minutes, and if we don't have it, then we can end the live.